Alfa, CP Comboios de Portugal, procedente de Lisboa, Santa Apolónia e com destino a Braga, que deverá dar entrada na linha número 1. Circula com um atraso de 5 minutos. A sua hora prevista de chegada é às 16 horas e 15 minutos. Pedimos a vossa compreensão pelos incômodos causados. Dentro de minutos, dará entrada na linha número 1. O comboio.
Entremete de Darwin Nunes é o que abriu o marcador. Os adeptos acreditam. A luz pode voltar outra vez. E a luz e hoje quem vai gritar o golo? Se a bola empate vão ser os adeptos. Eu depois vou acompanhar. Ai, ele vai atirar, ele vai atirar, ele vai atirar, ele vai atirar.
All right, everybody, thank you for joining another edition of Benfica After 90. We got one heck of a Festivus on the docket tonight, a 7-goal Festivus for all of us, and a bunch of other things to cover off. How you doing, Joe? You doing good, buddy?
Good, yeah. Like we were chatting about before, it's a great day to be a Benfiquista. Probably one of my favorite games in recent memory. Just not so much for the result or the emotion behind it, but just the way that they played, which we can't always say. So yeah, it's good. Good day. How about you?
Yeah, doing fantastic. You don't. One comment off the get-go was when we got 2 early goals. Obviously, love early goals. But someone responded to me on Twitter and was like, "Oh, now let's watch these guys take the foot off the gas or fall asleep at the wheel." And you kind of start seeing those comments because that's been the reality of it, right? It was a consistently good game. Entire first half, entire second half, just pure enjoyable. These guys did not let up. Well into extra time, like all of it. It was a blast. I enjoyed it. It was fun. This is the type of Benfica you want to see week in and week out, and there was a point in time we saw that a lot, right? So amazing to kind of see this outcome.
Yeah, one of the things that we had even been talking about kind of over Twitter was our predictions for the game. Yep. And I don't want to spoil anything, but me and you, Mario, we might be the new Bruges for Benfica.
No
they
kidding.
They don't need to pay us either.
Like
coming into the game, I thought that it was going to be a game where we would. I actually, for whatever reason, right? I actually felt like this one was going to be comfortable. It wasn't like a game where most of the time I'm like, all right, if we do go up 1 or 2-0, they're going to score like right before halftime or right after halftime, and it's going to be like another game where we're like suffering, right? But today, for some reason, I was like, you know what? Today, I think no JJ. For whatever reason, I was kind of feeling like it was going to be an easier game. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, and even before that, if you scroll to the top, I was also feeling the goal from Gonçalo. Seemed today was just like today was going to be a good day. I don't know why. Maybe it was because it disappointed me, or
it was one of these things where you want to see Gonçalo, and I saw a lot of people kind of ragging on. Obviously, Almeida's playing things of sort, but like we'll see what happens here. See how the game goes and progresses. And there's me and you had a bit of back and forth chat on the side and on Twitter a bit about how it'd be nice. It'd be nice we got an early lead, and it'd be nice to see the kid come out, get some minutes, see some of the guys get. We've been joking a lot about not getting any minutes, stuff like that. Just we have our wish list. It's Christmas time. We send Santa our letters, and my God, was he reading this time of year, man? It's nice.
Yeah, I know, it was insane. I think that for me, I looked at the 11, right, and you just kind of gave a little preview of it there. But I was like, okay, this is another game where nothing's exciting, right? In terms of exciting, I was expecting there to be maybe like a Paulo Bernard or like a Morato or someone. I don't know. I was expecting something a little bit different. I probably should have assumed that JJ would have gone safer, considering he wouldn't be able to make the in-game substitutions, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, you know what? It's going to be exciting. And then I saw the 11, and I was like, oof. Well, you know what? I have a good feeling. I think we'll go up, and I think Gonçalo will do something. And in the end, the 11 that we had was except for really Almeida, was pretty solid.
And it worked good. And before we kind of get a little further into the 11 and kind of read them out, the other big thing, and Luis did it for us, he did the reaction for the Champions League draw, and we weren't able to kind of get together. Just the stars did not align for the Taça Liga. And so real quick, man, we got the confusion of the draw. I know we've talked a lot all week, back and forth, me and you, Mello, Luis, Ethan, all of us, right? And everyone else, obviously, online. Um, but yeah, it worked out, man. I wouldn't have minded. Real's to me, I ranked Real in the middle of all teams you can get. Like I didn't want City, I didn't want Liverpool. At the same time, I feel Real's been coming on form. They're looking really good. They'd be a very tough team to face. I think a lot of people were asking for Lille. I really wanted Juventus. Saw Sporting get Juventus initially, and I was like, lucky buggers. And then all of a sudden, they redraw. We got Ajax, great team. I think right now playing amazing, well run. I think they've only conceded 4 goals or something like that so far all season, mostly against Sporting. No, not Sporting. It was PSV. PSV got the spanked the heck out of them. And then they spanked Sporting, and Sporting spanked us, and we spanked PSV. So there's like this weird little circle going on. So
And then they spanked. It's so weird because they lost in like their Super Tasa, right? Like the Community Shield, the Super Cup. And then what ended up happening is they just played PSV a little while ago. Sorry for that. And they lost 5-0. They got spanked. So then you look at the league, it's like, all right, well, like Ajax is taking it back. No, Ajax is in second. PSV's in first in the league.
Yeah,
but things are crazy. It seems like this isn't a season where you could say, okay, we beat this team, therefore, we would have beat that team, because it's like everyone on paper isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing when it comes to the game itself.
Yeah, everyone can make the right to say it. Plus, also, we got another 2 months to go because it's going to be in February, right? So we got lots of time before that first matchup in Europe happens. We get the pleasure of hosting them first. So everyone has different superstitions. You want to play at home first. You want to play home the second leg away. But the reality is we play home first, away next. And that's at the end of February. So you got a good solid 2 months in a bit, right? To get really figure your stuff out, or hopefully, if they have a bad run, hopefully that bad run hits at that point, but we'll see.
I think something that will kind of be interesting is we look to like match congestion. It's one of the things that the Premier League clubs, right, always complain about this time of year.
They're about to get a lot more of it now.
Exactly, in England, right? And with them, with the COVID situation, obviously, things have kind of taken a little turn there. But for us, you kind of look at it, and it's like, we had discussed this when the draw came out very briefly. But Benfica right now December was always going to be a series of tough matches, right? You had the match against Sporting.
Yeah.
Then you had the match against Kiev. Then you had the match in the Taça. Then you had this match. And then you have the 2 fourth matches, right? So you had 6 really, really important games where you could have been knocked out of, for all intents and purposes, 4 competitions this month. You've already gone through the Champions League. You've gone through in the Taça Liga. And we can, really quickly for Taça Liga, Sporting will be playing Santa Clara in their semifinal, and we'll be playing Boavista. For both Sporting and Benfica, very passable games, right? So Taça Liga is looking very good for a final, which people always say, we don't really care about Taça Liga. And
a cup's a cup, man.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. It's like, do you think of it at the end of the year? No. Will you be happy and celebrate your ass off if they do win it? Yeah, obviously, right? Like, Benfica should be winning cups, regardless of, I don't care if it's the Audi Cup or the Eusebio Cup or their International Champions Cup. Like, you always want to win, right?
And the thing is, with these cups, initially when I agree. In hindsight, when the season's all done, if you win it, you're like, cool, we got that cup. It isn't like you're going to celebrate the season because of it. If you didn't win it, you kind of forget about it. When you first play the first couple of matches, especially when it's like lesser sides, and I'm not trying to be offensive. You kind of don't look at it. But if we beat Boavista, then Sporting beats Santa Clara, it's Benfica versus Sporting for a title. That's
what it comes down to.
It could be the Taça de Freguesia. It could be the Sueca title. It could be the Domino's title. It could be the title for like water polo. It doesn't matter. It's Benfica versus Sporting. It all of a sudden amplifies the level of excitement. Jorge Jesus has, the marquee item of being the manager's won the most of these cups in a sense, right? So he won it with us. I think he won one of them with Sporting. It's one of these things where a lot of pride's on the line. It could be a way trying to like save some face. You beat Sporting in the cup. Yes, we lost in the league. And let's say for some reason we can't catch up the league, you always get that little extra bragging right that at least we got you here kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like if you look at the end of the year when it comes to, or even kind of a better example is, okay, a lot of clubs will measure their manager's performance based off of how they play against the rivals, right?
Yeah.
So like people were saying at the beginning of this month when we lost the Sporting, all right, if you look, like everyone was talking about obviously getting rid of JJ at that time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to rivals, like that's a tipping point, right? Like with Ole losing to Liverpool 5-0 or whatever it was, us losing. You have the 2 Porth games, losing competition. Like because last year JJ lost in all the competitions, but then when we look at the actual matches themselves, it's like, all right, we lost to Sporting, beat Sporting. We were beating Sporting 3-0, but then we also lost to Braga. You know what I mean? You kind of get down to everything. It's like so much went wrong, so much went right, but you always do remember like the win over Sporting. Because if they beat us, they would have been invincibles. No one's talking about invincibles. Imagine how insufferable Sporting Easters would be if they went undefeated. Because only Benfica and Porto have been invincible. So it's like it's still something they haven't done as a club.
And it's us that took it away also. It's like an extra thing. Not only did you not get it, the only reason you didn't get it was because of us. And there's that extra like jab you get to do. And lately you kind of you're spot on, man. If we screwed up Kiev, Europe would have been out. We would have been heartbroken, could have screwed up TAS Liga. Kovia is not like a powerhouse. They're at the bottom of the 2nd division, but I looked it up. I was expecting I personally still think we should expect them more, but at the same time, funny enough, even though Benfica B is like the top 2nd division team, and these guys are one of the bottom 2nd division teams, we haven't been able to get a win against these guys in years at the B side, which is hilarious how it's worked out.
Even on the A side, remember the last time we played them was in 2019, and it was in the TAS Liga, and we tied.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, now that I'm saying that, did we end up with Vitória Guimarães and Covilhã that year too? I think we might have.
I wasn't sure if it was them again or if it was a different setup.
I think because I do remember. I don't know what the setup was, but I remember going to watch at the game. We drew with Guimarães. I think it was 1-1. It was a terrible game. They hit the crossbar like a million times at the end of the first half. But that was in the 2019-2020 season. But anyway, the thing really that I was surprised about was, like you said, all that stuff. Like I was even looking Paulo Bernard. I think the last time he played against them was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we were in it. It was Stubble, Guimarães, and Covilhã. It was. It's hilarious.
Guimarães is the game I remember. But
yeah, it was Guimarães, but they were in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like
And we drew 1-1. Yeah, we drew 1-1 against them, and
did he score?
Was that? Let's see. Jota got the goal in that one.
Jota, my guy, I loved him. But they, I remember the end of the first half of the game was like FIFA. They hit the bar like 6 times, and I was like, I don't know how we're not losing 3-0 at the end of the first half. But yeah, in terms of like this month, obviously we know we had a complicated calendar, and now, I mean, we're halfway through the month, or in terms of matches, like 2/3 of the way through, right? We did lose against Sporting. That still hurts. We're 4 points back after Porto and Sporting were able to win this weekend. But we play Sporting in the Taça. If we beat them, we're in the quarterfinals. I feel good about our chances. If we beat them in the league, even better because it's in the Dragão. It's a game that, we need to win.
Back to back in the Dragão. Like that is a tough feat, but it's nuts. It's nuts. And also, but again, we got that win. Famalicão was a 4-1 win. Yes, there's points we fell asleep on. Today was an amazing game, and then you want and also I don't want to say that Ajax draw gives you momentum. Ajax is a tough team, but it is a team that you can have a fair fight against.
If you play against Real Madrid, like if Benfica today were playing against Real Madrid, we may have squeaked out a game, right? But the thing is, like, I don't think you can replicate a performance like that against Real Madrid. Against Ajax, if Benfica plays the way they played today against Ajax, they're gonna win. And then in the second leg, you can get a result out of Ajax. It's not like a Real Madrid, or it's not like a Tubarão, like they say, right? Like one of the sharks with all their money. We're playing a club that on a financial level, we have the advantage, right? In terms of just size and general prestige, we're very similar clubs.
Yeah.
Fantastic youth systems. They obviously got They had 4 Champions Leagues. We have 2, but we have the 9, like the finals, right? More appearances and everything. They obviously have Cruyff. We have Eusebio. Cruyff obviously a little bit more famous because then he went on and did what he did at Barca. But like the thing is, it comes down to it, and you look at it, and we have the financial edge.
Yeah.
They are just a better run club. So you're jealous because they do have young kids that keep on popping up in the side. Not so much the side right now, but in years past.
They're very well organized, very well run.
But to kind of just talk about today, one of the things I saw Fabs just talking about in the chat, the Darwin. I do want to touch on at the end of this. I do want to touch on transfer, kind of what your thoughts are for
Yeah.
January, because we have the fourth matches. But after today, I have a lot of thoughts on what Benfica is going to do in January and just the league in general.
Let me get the starting 11 out, and
Sure.
I'll write it out, and we'll get into the match.
Let's do it.
All right, for today we had Outback, Odysseus, Grimaldo, Vertonghen, Otamendi, Almeida, Gilberto. In the midfield, Weigl, João Mario, Rafa, Chuck, and Darwin. That was your starting 11 for tonight, and Rafa with a 10-star average across the board for so many sites.
I mean, yeah, when I looked at the 11, we kind of touched on it before, but it wasn't anything that excited me per se. But one of the things that I was kind of excited to see is just in general how the Chuck, Rafa, and Darwin front three would react, right? Because that's a front three we've seen a lot of results for in the past. This really is, when you look at production wise, stats wise, what our best combinations are, right? Like this lineup really is it, except take out Almeida, put in Verissimo, but obviously with the injury, and even then you'd probably put Moratu, right? But more or less, this is our best 11, right?
Yeah, no, and it's and I gotta say today they really showed up. I think some of the criticisms we've had before is that João Mario had fallen off relative to his form early to joining us. But today I really felt he showed up. I think from an attacking mid, ball distribution, pushing a little bit more aggressive, he had that for a good chunk of the time, which was nice. Made a big difference. Almeida also, today, I mock him. I still mock him, but at the same time, he did okay. But when you get other components, like when Rafa shows up, he's such a game changer. But also Gilberto in the last, like we've been talking about throughout the season, how well he's done this season, but he's really continues to show up. And this is the one thing, even though I love the traditional 4-4-2 formation, if we're going with these three in the back, Gilberto's not the best defensively, but offensively, he's offering far more than what we saw from Almeida. And there's even one point, and this is later in the second half, where Gilberto does a cross from the fullback, the right position, all the way to Darwin. Just a beautiful, long, solid, like a powerful cross.
Yeah, I saw, and I was
he
even
was pinging
surprised
those
when he
balls
did
amazingly. So it's just
right.
Yeah.
One of the things for me that I kind of think about is like Gilbert, right? Like you said, defensively not the best, but here's the thing: he's got a lot of heart, right? And that's what it comes down to. So if you have a guy that isn't great defensively in terms of technique and stuff, or just defensive awareness, but he's chasud, like they like to say, if he has a lot of heart, then he's probably going to be able to get the job done, right? He's not going to give up easily. But offensively, he does offer something that's different. Almeida will always give you those crosses, like a Grimaldo or even Nuno Tavares, right? He's going to give you a million crosses. Some are good, some are bad. And it really kind of depends what happens there. But he's not like even Diogo Gonçalves, who coming into the year, you kind of thought that he was going to be like, right, it was his starting spot to lose. Gilberto, obviously, last year, we don't need to talk about it. He was terrible. Everyone was like, what did Jesus do with this guy? I'm still convinced that a different Gilberto came back from Brazil this summer, or maybe the real Gilberto only came this year, and last year he decided to just have churrascos in Brazil with his family, right? Enjoy life over there while he could. But today, like I looked at us and I was like, Gilberto was doing great.
Yeah.
Weigl with the long passes too was great. I mean, the long pass that ended up the one from Darwin that started the Chuck goal all the way to Rafa with that beautiful touch, and then boom for the 5-0 for the fifth goal. Not to hop ahead, but that was great. Like today, everyone was just on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders for Benfica, at least. For Marítimo, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. And just real quick, also a big shout out to everyone: Boris, Caesar, Cynthia, Fabs, Fernando, everyone that's kind of joined up tonight. We got Teenage Wasteland, obviously for the song track is my guess. But it it was a good game, man. I'm hoping everyone enjoyed it. I think we got to enjoy these moments, appreciate them. Maritimu will kind of go back to Madeira and look at National and say, hey, at least it wasn't 10-0.
Yeah.
So they still got that bragging right. The one hilarious thing I heard though, which made me laugh, I was watching it with Cynthia, right? And it was later in the second half. So Maritimu got 1 goal. I did not know this, and I gotta verify this myself. Actually, I'll do it right now. Benfica versus Maritimu. Supposedly for quite some time, Benfica versus Maritimu. Maritimu had not scored at the Luge in the last. I think what they quoted
6 years.
was 7 matches. I guess you could say so. 6 years likely, like in terms of home games, right? So when I look at the head-to-head, let me pull it up here. But yeah, no, they have 0. Yeah, they score away, I guess you could say. But
the last time that they scored was in Taça Liga in the final when we beat them 2-1.
I'm just going through. Yeah, it's been a
2015.
long time. 2-1. There it is.
Yes. So like,
Yeah.
that's insane.
That's nuts. So it was a long run. So unfortunately, we conceded a goal. It just shows how horrible this team is and why everyone should be fired.
Well, no, one of the things that I do want to bring up, just kind of in general, I know Boris said he didn't get to see the match, but saw some highlights. Something that you wouldn't be able to see is you look at a 7-1 match, right? You would assume that we were all over them the whole game. But with this Benfica team, can't assume anything, especially when it comes to playing hard for all 90 minutes. But today they did. Today they were able to do that from the first minute, right from when Darwin scored, which is in the second minute or the third minute rather. But like from there, pretty much on out, we owned the game. Beautiful play started by Gilbert, kind of ends up in Rafa's feet. Rafa looks like he takes a bad touch, and then Darwin puts it away for the 1-0.
Yep.
In general, another thing I want to add, though, the referee was great. So Darwin and Ivan Rossi both picked up yellows for similar fouls. They did comment on the referees, as they always do at halftime on BTV. But I loved the ref today. I thought he was great. Let him play. Not that there was, a lot kind of controversially. But that was great. For the 2-0, João Mario with a great cross over to Darwin. And then Gilbert with a beautiful bar-down stunner for the third goal. And those were the first half goals. But one thing is, like, on that second goal that ended up with the ball in João Mario's feet from a bad clearance, and then he crosses the back post, beautiful header through the goalie's legs for Darwin, right? I was kind of thinking, man, Chuck, what were you doing there? Because Darwin had set up Chuck on that play, and he just kind of didn't have his feet. So, like, in the first half, I was like, okay, Darwin, he's doing phenomenally. Rafa's doing great as always. João Mario, like you said, looked switched on. He looked great. Kind of, towards the end of the game, he seemed to kind of tucker out a little bit, but that happens, right? Unfortunately. But when I looked at Chuck, my first half, like Chorice, if I had to give a Chorice the first half, it was going to be Chuck.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was actually thinking the exact same thing. I'm watching this match, and partly, if I know I'm going to be doing the show, I started thinking, okay, who am I liking the most? What's the moment I'm liking the most? And who's my Chorice so far, right? And we always think the Chorice is never to like bash on the player, but who's the guy I'm least impressed with? Let's be honest, right? And I agree. It was Chuck. I was like, oh, it looks like I'm loving this team. They're doing well. They're showing up today. They're not falling asleep at the wheel. Looks like Chuck is going to be the Chorice from the looks of it if it keeps up this way. Second half starts, and he has that great assist. Then he has a goal, and he's playing well, and it's like, oh, okay, I got to really put some thought into it because I'm going to struggle, actually, to be honest. I still haven't figured out Chorice, so I'm going to wing it, but I think I know who I might give it to. But I just I thought it was such a well-run game, and the thing I loved the most was not falling asleep, not sitting on your laurels, not being
taking the foot out the gas.
Yeah, man, and it's been frustrating. It's like, don't, man, just play the game. You're paid to play quite a bit of money. Just play the damn game. If we're winning 4-0, make it 5-0. If we're winning 5-0, make it further. Just you got to take these bigger victories when you get a chance to, because there is a certain level of excitement that that happens, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but overall, man, they didn't do that, man. They played well. I loved it. It was well done.
And when it came to like the goal, I do want to just address something really quick. Mello and Luis, if you're listening to this, right? I said on the last show that Rafa wasn't trying to chip the keeper against Famalicão, that he was just trying to give Darwin the assist. He chipped the keeper today.
Yeah, that was a good chip. That was a legit chip.
so I want to just publicly apologize to Mello and Luis that you did try to chip him last week against Famalicão. But that being said, right? Chuck, that we already touched on the fifth goal in the 57th minute. That was the Darwin's crossfield, and he just blasts the ball over to Rafa, this is something we should be doing more. We do it a lot, actually, obviously, and when we do it successfully, it ends in a goal always. These people, whether it's a Vertonghen or Weigl or Darwin, smash the ball over the top to Rafa. Rafa's gonna run. He's gonna get the ball. Whether or not he makes the right decision, obviously, is dependent on whether or not it ends in a goal. But today he made the right decision. Beautiful touch, taps it over to Chuck. Boom, 5-0. Right, and even with 4-0, you felt like the game's done. Or everyone definitely should have thought that the game's done. But at 5-0, it was kind of like, oh wow, this does it. 5-0 in the 57th minute. Could we get to? And we had missed chances. That's the thing. Chuck had missed.
Chuck had a few.
Darwin had one stuck in his feet.
Yeah.
Like it was 5-0, but at that point it could have been 8, and like legitimately could have been 8. So you started thinking, can we get to 10 against another team from Madeira? That'd be great.
Be amazing. Right? I just want to touch on this quick comment here from Boris. There's 2 moments in this match where I thought offside could have happened, but then on the they did review it. They did review it, and this was good. This one was good, and same with Ethan's goal. Initially on first eyesight when they got the goal, I thought not the goal itself, not that play, but there was a play where it was a prior, which I thought was off, but then they actually took a look at that, and it was a legit goal. And Ethan got it good. But yeah, I think today was on point. Didn't really interfere too much. And one last comment I want to touch on, I'll get you back on your point there, was sometimes the lack of competitiveness in our league. And I was actually thinking that at one point, not the uncompetitiveness, but the fact that our league is a league that you have to win almost all your games, and you only have a few narrow opportunities to lose games. And that's why sometimes when people think as fans we're overreacting when we lose to Sporting, or all of a sudden we have like a bad game against Guimarães and we drop points on a draw. It is such a little window of opportunity to drop points because so many of the games are won throughout the season when it comes to Benfica, Porto, and Sporting, right? It still is a competitive league, but there is a certain gap. But you do see that also if you look at, and I'm not trying to compare PSG, but if you look at money gap PSG to a small couple French team, City to a lower end EPL team, you look at the Italian top wealthy teams versus a smaller Serie A team. Same with Real, right?
I heard that stat, and obviously I was like, oh, wow. But then I thought, like, for teams from Madeira, like, that's not easy to have plain legs. Like, I don't care what you say, just not having your routine. It's so different for teams that name one other league where you're flying to another, like, you're flying to games, right?
It's the one. When we face Madeira or Nacional in Madeira,
it's tough.
We always complain saying, "Oh, it's that away fixture." Well, I know they're not good, but it always throws you off your rhythm.
So yeah, and it's like the flight. Obviously, there are teams that fly in other countries, like the U.S. or even some places in England. I'm sure Newcastle isn't playing like Leeds or something, or Newcastle going to England like by bus, right? But even then, like it just messes with your whole thing, like having to go to the continent, and then with COVID, it's different things and tests and blah blah blah. Like. It's just the inconvenience of being on a flight. And they always talk about like basketball players being cramped up. I'm sure it's not like ideal if you're doing recovery and then recovery gets messed up with planes and blah, blah, blah. Just your whole swing of things obviously is off. And it's like they're traveling for like their college kids traveling for half the season.
Benfica, right? So I don't even want to say Benfica, but majority of Liga NOS clubs, and we're just kind of comparing now the Continent versus Gilhas, whether you're talking Santa Clara, Marítimo, or Nacional, those types of clubs, right? We have the luxury of getting in a bus, we go to our team, we go to our stadium, do our training routine at the Seychelles. Then we get on the bus and we go to Stubble, play a game, go back to Seychelles.
Seychelles is nice because it's right there.
Right Stubble. There, literally around the corner. And I know that's a really like close example, but to go to
Oroca,
to go to Oroca, to go to Estoril, to go to even Porto Muniz, it's a 3-hour drive, but you can get on a bus. You can fly if we want to, but we can do it all there and back. Sometimes, depending on flight schedules, things of sort, they got to arrive a little bit early. Maybe they got to stay an overnighter. Sometimes it happens to us when we go to Madeira, we go early in the morning, but a lot of times we might fly the night before. You don't get the same rest, the same food.
Exactly. It's something that's interesting. But to wrap up the game, and then we can get into the general stuff. 6-1, Gonçalo Ramos. Mario, We predicted it, and you were 2 minutes off.
I love it. It was literally, I couldn't believe it. Like the way we were talking about it, it was a wisecrack before the match, wisecrack during the match, and once they got those 2 early goals, like all we need is Ram shit. We're like, oh, we'll see, man, we'll see. And it
Yeah,
happened.
because we had already said, it's going to start with their low score 2+. It's going to probably be an easier game. He'll come on.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't get
but
to start.
we were saying also, like, when we were chatting back and forth,
didn't-
not only would it be 2-2 nothing, we were chatting back and forth ourselves on the side, like, maybe it'll be like a good game, though. This is going to be a good game. It's not just going to be us taking the fun. We'll have a good game. We got that. But anyway,
the thing, and then we were like, and you were like, I was like, okay, I was feeling a goal or an assist today from him because I was like, it has to be today. He's got to get this monkey off his back. And then you go, well, obviously at that time the 11 came out, he was just on the bench. You're like, yeah, when he gets subbed on in the 88th minute,
yeah,
and then he does it in the 86th.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
and then
right?
it was pretty cool. How often can you say that all 4 of your strikers, Seth, Ramsh, Darwin, Chuck, all got goals?
And if you all 5 attackers with Rafa.
Yeah, throw Rafa in there, he got it also. It was a great overall opportunity. And honestly, Pizzi could have done a good opportunity in the second half when he was subbed on. Tarat had a pretty good goal also today. Like pretty good goal today when he came on.
He's been the last 3 games. He's been great. So yeah. I've like, in general, I'd say the 2 biggest players I've been haters on for Benfica, right? Gilbert last season, obviously, and then Tarat in general. I just thought I've been thinking for a while that him and Pizzi are kind of just dead weight on the team. It's a guy that I really don't see. Like you have a guy in Paulo Bernard that can he can play his position better defensively, and you don't want to see him take minutes. Pretty much is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like Tarat, don't get me wrong, he's gonna get that Meg that ends up in the Champions League Twitter, right? He's gonna do the thing that makes everyone go, "Oh wow, Tarat!" Like the streets never forget. It's funny, it's great, but at the same time, when you realize that he's taking minutes away, he's guaranteed to follow someone with the car wash arms that he's got going on. Defensively, he's not doing great things. He's risking balls a lot, like in close games, which you need to win, but also he risks them to the point where not only we're losing the ball, but defensively, he then puts us at a different disadvantage, like immediately, right? So that's my kind of general gripe with Tarat. But the last 3 games, he's hustled. Not only has he hustled because he does run a lot in general, right? Like moving around. Yeah. He's been in the right places. He's been great defensively, great offensively, like kind of more of a game manager, it seems like. He even intercepted a ball on one of the goals that he set up last match against Famalicão, the Rafa goal, right? So he's been doing a lot better in general. And I think that for me today, I saw that and I was like, you know what? He's another guy. Him and Gilbert, they're off my list for now. They're even off they're still on my probation list, more or less. Gilbert's probably off by now. 4th goal of the season today. Unreal.
I think Gilbert is fully off. He's good. He's got a good buffer. I'd say the Tarat comment, and it's less about Tarat because I think he had a very good game. It's more about Bernardo. And there's been this wisecrack that I've been making ever since Taça de Liga because at Taça de Liga, here's your opportunity to give the kids some minutes, and we still don't play it. And I kind of just making this, some guy named Bernardo stole George Jesus's girl when he was young, or did something dirty to him, or that was his bully. You know what I mean? That was the guy who used to like kick him in the groin at school every day. He just hates that name. Like literally, Bernardo needs to go out. He needs to get a new jersey, rename it, call himself Carlos Martins. Go to the barber, get like a little thinning going on here. Just pluck a few hairs on me so it looks a little thin. And that's kind of like talking about giving another player that can play okay, but you're gifting minutes they should use elsewhere. It's that Carlos Martins individual that we had, which wasn't too bad for us. But in his final season with us, he didn't really belong at Benfica. And yet George Jesus would play him, and you'd be kind of sitting there, man, we got other guys on the bench you can play that should get these minutes. And it's like, this guy's not going to be here anyways, and he's tapering off. And I really think that Tarat had a great game. So I feel bad saying it that way. But to me, it's you're winning the way we're winning right now. You had the Taça Liga, you had this game. These are the games where you can let someone like that have a good 30 minutes of developmental time on a starting 11.
So that's exactly what I was thinking when the game, obviously when the game developed the way it did. I was like, okay, Gonçalo needs at least half an hour here, right? Because the thing is with young players, if they don't get the start, which you can't really, depending on the position, right? If we have guys, which Benfica does have guys in every position, we don't expect them to get the start really per se, right? Other guys probably have earned it. Not to say that they haven't, but other guys have as well. But then when it comes to substitutions, it's like, all right, you don't want it to be a Jota situation where the max he gets is 30, like he gets one start in the Tasa, and then every game he's coming in the last 10 minutes or the last 5 minutes, and then so much so he's playing so little that they're counting the stoppage time minutes, which a lot of times don't mean a lot, right? And Gonçalo Ramos, you think about that and you're like, okay, well, when he got his debut, 2 goals in 8 minutes against Aves. Remember that during the COVID year? So it's not like he's a guy where it's, oh no, like he needs his time, like he needs to feel the game out. It's like, no, he's come on and been a super sub, right? So then it gets to the point where it's like, all right, you don't want him though to kind of lose confidence. He had such a hot preseason, like 4 or 5 goals or whatever it was, and then he
look great on the
really
youth
cooled off.
side.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's been great for the U21s, and then you look at him with us, and it's like, all right, Gonçalo is losing confidence. Just give him a start to see what happens, right? And then even at the beginning of the year, he was getting some starts, didn't work out. And then today, it's like, all right, we're up 5-0 with 30 minutes left. Put in the kids, and they were warming up and everything.
And sometimes when you see the kids come on when you're up 5-0, the team also feel. If not saying they get the instructions, but mentally
They like feel it.
They take the foot off the gas. That some players do. And the new kids come on, they're trying to prove themselves, but the other teammates are kind of going, we're done. The kids are on. The rest of us that are still on the pitch, let's mail it. And they didn't do that today. Today they played. It was good, man. I think club morale, team morale, it's amazing.
Yeah, and Rafa with 4 assists today. Unreal.
Yeah.
He has 12 now. So, and that's kind of one of the things that I want to get to before we do Charisse the match or anything like that, right? I do just kind of want to talk about just like general squad stuff, right?
Yeah. Can I do
In
one
terms of,
quick
like-
thing? Well, right before you do that, I just want a little side banter
For
thing
sure.
on the end.
Oh.
Because I wanted to do this at the beginning, which is a jersey bit. But Carolina got her jersey, so she sent us some
true.
photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just a quick bit on update on this part. So we did the contest. We had our winner. She's out in the UK, so Louise got put on assignment to deliver the package to her. That the agreement between all of us was if there were anyone in Canada, I'd be doing it. East Coast Joe, West Coast Mello, UK Louise, and ended up being a UK individual or a European individual. And so yeah, she posted some photos. She loved it. She picked the away kit. That's what she wanted. She sent us some of these pictures. She has before in the past talked to us about being on the show, but very shy. But she was sharing these online, which was very nice, and sent it to us. So we're happy that obviously the kit made it. It made it in time for Christmas, to be honest, with shipping and all the craziness going on in the world. We were actually between us chatting, saying, holy shit, what if she only gets it sometime later in January? So thankfully she was in the UK, Luigi in the UK, and they got more options in the UK. And so he was able to get it a lot sooner. So made it in time for Christmas. So Feliz Natal.
Yeah. No, yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Myra. That's huge. But actually, something else I forgot to mention, right? I don't know how this didn't get brought up before. Midweek press conference with Ruben Amorim from Sporting, right? This has been I didn't really think of it because we all love Amorim. We know deep down he's a Benfiquista. Everyone knows just straight up Jorge Jesus is a Sportingista. So like,
yeah,
just that in and of itself, there's always just that little aspect to everything that they say that makes you think a little more. How about him? Someone commented, or a journalist had asked him about the fact that Benfica had more league goals than Sporting.
And his comment was
less goals. Well, they did score 7 against B Sad, and it's he wasn't trying to start anything. It's just a fact. You look right now today, Sporting have 27 goals. We have 46. We scored 7 against another team. Don't get me wrong. I still don't like that we scored 7 against B-Sad. I want it to be 3-1, 3-0 in and out, right? But the fact of the matter is stuff happened. Look, I hope that Darwin wins best scorer by 8 goals. I hope that we win the league, or if we do tie, that we beat them in goal difference by 30 goals, right? Like I don't want that to be, first of all, just from a competitive standpoint, like I don't want to win on a technicality, right, or on something that really shouldn't happen. But the fact is today, this was great. And it really should. The fact of the matter is we should have won by more, and we didn't have our coach today.
Yeah.
Like JJ wasn't on the bench. And in case we forget, João de Deus, although he is God versus Jesus, right? We have struggled with him like in the past.
Yeah, whenever he's come on, it's always the guy trying to not impose his own style. He's trying to impose the manager style that's not there, and he's a lot of times taking radio communication messages in the ear, and it's not an easy shtick to do. And on the Ruben Amorim thing, officially now 46 goal differential or goals for us, 46 goals for us, 38 for Sporting. Take away the 7, we're still at 39. And let's call a spade, man. I'll be honest. If it's us versus Bulanish, just like we were talking about Maritim, the odds are we would have won that game. given where Bill and Ish is in the
Oh no,
table.
I would say at that point we're like this season they're totally different too. The B set,
Yeah,
like in
They're-
years
they're
past,
last, they're
right?
last in the league. They're a train wreck. Like it's and so I think like we would have likely have gotten a few goals, maybe 1 goal, maybe 4 goals, who knows? But it's like there's
They're
such
literally
a
in last place in the league.
yeah.
They're literally in 18th. They're in the relegation zone.
Yeah.
This isn't the petite team that for whatever reason kind of had our number. People used to like that was something where I mean, yeah, we beat on them, but at the same time it was close games, right? So when it comes to Nunes, that's actually phenomenal, Fabs, real quick. When it comes to the coach conversation, I mean, keep it in the family, right? The Holy Family in this case. But
Yeah.
when it comes to just like those games, unless it's a game against a big team, or you will have games like against Vizela or Portimonense, right? That we kind of slip up. But you can never say, oh, like they were going to win that game. It's not like they gave us a win against Sporting. Like we were going to win that game, just like if Sporting go and play Moreirense, they're probably going to win that game. Oh, and Sporting beat Marítimo this year 1-0 in the 98th minute on a penalty. So, just want to say that like those goals haven't been penalty goals. Benfica, this Benfica team, and when it comes to just Darwin, which is what I want to talk about now, kind of some of the transfer stuff.
Yeah.
This Benfica team, man, offensively, our firepower, like I mentioned too, obviously we talked about how Chuck was disappointing the first half. Second half, he was great. Playing with, his back to the ball. He's so strong. He holds off defenders, but also coming back and being able to turn around and play forward, which is how he created one of the goals, right? He's been great. And these guys, Chuck, right? I think it's partly bad luck. Partly
I really think Chuck today, that second half, he needed that assist, needed that goal. He missed a couple of golden opportunities, and then there was that one cross where he got it on his chest, and he'd been in prime position, and he just fell. And the way he fell and he hit just ate some grass, he laid there for a second, and you could just see he had just missed a couple of good opportunities. He was like, I'm done. Everyone's doing well. I'm shit. I don't belong here. I shouldn't be here. And it was really good. I hope he takes that assist and that goal and uses it to build, because we need someone else other than Darwin as a forward scoring some goals. You need that support.
So yeah, and I think it's really interesting because when we think about, obviously Darwin's been the brunt of a lot of our Benfica Twitter, let's say, hate, right?
Yeah, last year he got it hard last year because of the amount of money spent. He got
the thing is, even this season there was the against Sporting when the ball came in his lap and kind of like megged him. He can't settle a simple ball. But then we see him, and in general, I was talking to some friends that were that follow Prem teams, right? Like Man United and Arsenal and Liverpool and all these different teams. And obviously the Portuguese league is something that they always ask about. Newcastle was something brought up, all that stuff. And we kind of talked about the players that are in Portugal right now, because Portugal's always been historically kind of had a plethora of great players, right? Great talent going outward. Right now,
there's an abnormal percentile of EPL players that played their practice in Portugal.
Yeah,
like if you look at relative to population and league size and economic speaking, we have an over allotment of talent playing in the EPL. And then if you look at La Liga and other spots, like we are a factory of talent.
Yeah. And then even for the ones that we don't produce, right? We get guys like, unfortunately, it's not going to be the case this time, but an Everton or guys that come from Brazil and kind of Portugal's their stop, or Colombia where it's Porto, right?
We find the diamonds in the rough, right? Like the ones the guys that no one heard about that we bring them up, or Everton people heard about, but it's different.
Well, yeah, but it's whatever. It's like the stop that they make before they go to the top five, or mainly La Liga or England, right? Because those are kind of the two places that you can go up. Just because Italy obviously is what it is, and France is trash. But when it comes to one of the things that we were talking about was the talent we have. Look across the league right now, like obviously the big three. You have Luis Diaz from Port, he's going to leave soon. He's phenomenal. Diogo Costa is a great defender, but Luis Diaz is Port.
He's phenomenal. That's their man.
Arguably the best player in the league. I actually today started to come to the terms that I really do think Rafa. I mean, when they're on their best game, right, it's a different conversation. But Luis Diaz is so consistent. He's in my fantasy team. And he's been my captain for the most part, right? He's so consistent. You look at Polinga, I think he's what Manchester United needs, but he's fantastic, right? Needs to get eyes from the Prem. Nuno Mendes is already gone, but then you look at Pedro Porro, where Real Madrid's talking about him now. You've got Mateus Nunes, who's phenomenal in a year. I bet people will be talking about him to leave. Pot, who, if he's healthy, he's going to be there again for the best scorer conversation. Then you look at us. Darwin, really is massive there. Rafa, like those two guys, especially, I really am kind of trying to think because Rafa was one of the guys, unfortunately, that I've gone on the record and said before I wanted to offload in the offseason just because I think that he has so much potential. And prior to, like, we've seen flashes of him here and there, right? But there was never that full season consistency. And obviously his decision making has always been an issue. But this year I looked at it, ever since he came back from the Seleção training camp at the Euro. First of all, great Euro, like when he played. But ever since he came back, he's been unreal, like red hot. And I really do think he has a case right now for best player in the league. Like, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, with the way that he's getting these assists and things of sort.
He's a player that every time he gets the ball, if he just says, "Hey, I wanna get to the goalie," and like either pass or shoot, he can. No, there's never a situation where you look and say, "Oh, he's got Seba on him or he's got Pep." Unfortunately, those guys would just kind of kill him. But really, what happens is this year you have so many guys, and I'm starting to trying to think. Like, I used to want to lose Rafa and be like, when are we going to get money for Rafa again? Is it going to be like easy where he's never worth it? But now it's like,
you'll cry. I think I would cry if that happened at this point, right? Like if we lost Rafa, especially the way he is right now. And just thought it's coming from Boris. I said bring it up. Yeah, there seems some room from Corinthians.
I don't think he's
a center back. I don't know if you heard anything about it.
Yeah, I had. I really don't think. I don't know too much about him. I probably watched like 2 Corinthian games, if anything, this season. And I don't really remember him sticking out, to be transparent. Could be good. I again just don't really know Corinthians that well. But like I don't think we need I think we don't need a center back.
I think we got Murat. Well,
we have Murat. Like we paid for Murat. Murat wasn't cheap considering.
I think the one fear, and I think this is legit fear, and I was glad to see Murat on today. We were calling for this. I'm so happy it friggin' happened. And Odie's getting a lot of love lately, and he should. But Murat needs to play more for 2 reasons. A, he has a talent. He's earned it. B, we got to rest Otamendi. We got to rest Jan Vertonghen. This schedule is only going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. Like when we look at the schedule, we got the back-to-back Porto coming up, and that's a very tough. Hopefully it goes well. But this is, I think it was Boris made a comment about we kill today, but if we fail against Porto, we'll be back to depression, and it will be, and it will all be college people's heads because those are must-win situations. Very tough asks, but they are tough. But then you head into January. January seems a little lighter on paper, but it kind of isn't because you have these 2 back-to-back Portos, a tiny break for the players, so they are going to get a little bit of rest, not much. But then you go into January, and then if we win Goal Festivus, which is the expectation of the TAS League, then we're going to face Sporting. And I think that gets faced back to back. So it'll be either
that's it's towards like the end of January, beginning of February, and then you start to think of the Ajax stuff. Because here's the thing, that's kind of what I wanted to get at.
That's when you get into also
the Liga. If you win, I think you play another game there in advance, like in that time frame. So it's not like we look at it now. It's like, oh, all right. After Porto, we have a couple Liga games, which should be easy because it's the first half of the season, right? Those games that we should have breezed through, that we did breeze through for the most part. And then you get to Ajax, and then it's like, all right, here's the thing. And this is why a performance like today makes me think that we can do something against Ajax. Like, for better or worse, my confidence keeps growing, right? And I keep getting more hopeful because if you put 7, like the high octane offense that we have, when we're firing on all cylinders, it's dangerous. Darwin puts his head down and just beats anyone, right? He can do that. He's a strong guy. Same with Chuck. I just think Chuck needs a little bit of confidence, and it seems like he's a little lost. So I'm not giving up on him, at Benfica, but this year I haven't seen what I love. Like I've seen flashes, but I don't rely on him. I don't expect him to be the guy, unfortunately, even though we should have for his price tag. And then you look at Rafa, where it's like, all right, Rafa's faster than every player will ever play, unless we play like Alphonso Davies and Bayern. Even then, I think you could give him a good foot race. Right?
Yeah, but he has it, and when he's on his game, when he's passing the ball well, he's again, Rafa's just one of those guys that, and I don't view him as a leader. I view that if everyone else is doing their part, like Rafa can help lift a team, but he can only lift so much. He doesn't put a team on his back very often. He can help a lift, but if the rest of the team's doing well, he seems to just feed off that energy. Like when the team is playing well, Rafa's just really in there, right? So I really hope that against Port, I think it's just the level of confidence that we'd have if we got this big win, and we get, I don't care if it's like we grind it by the skin of our just a tight result. I don't care how we do it. We advance the Taça Portugal and we get the win for the Liga NOS against Porto, which I agree with Boris. I think the Liga NOS win is a bit more important. The only negative though is, let's say if because of the point gap, I still think it's doable. It's going to be very tough to catch up. It's not the end of the world, but the reality is we have a 4-point gap, which is very tight. You beat Porto, you're now in second place. Because Porto would then, actually, no, you'd still be in third place. Porto has 41 points. We got 37.
Yeah.
We'd be 1 point behind Porto, but you're right there. Like you're still in the race relevant, right?
The thing that's frustrating is when you have, like for example, Porto and Sporting haven't lost this year, right? So they haven't, unfortunately, had the game where they slip up against a Portimonense. Not that that's going to happen against Porto, but like for Sporting, maybe against Passos de Ferreira or something like that, right? They tied against each other. So that's another thing. You don't have that distance between them because the one match they had in common, they drew. Braga against the big teams this year has been supremely disappointing.
Yeah, they
right?
really. I thought they'd do a lot better this year, and they've completely underwhelmed.
Me too. I mean, they're barely. When I say barely, they're in fourth place, but Estoril and Portimonense, like they're giving them a good fight too.
They're not. Normally, Braga is very close to the upper part of the table,
or even above us, right?
Yeah.
Like last year, there was a time where we were talking about the Conference League, remember?
Yeah.
And then now we're in the round of 16. But I think one of the things that's interesting is, talking about form going into the Ajax stuff to kind of talk about what Fab's saying here, right? I think part of the 100 million number, I know that's like a big number, right? But we do have to remember, and I kind of forget this myself, we did sell Pedrinho, so like that's some of that money that's gone, right? So from the initial buy, so we did bring in Chuck, so that's something else you could bring up. But like the 100 million that was spent, right? That was obviously an election stuff. I kind of think of this team as being a little bit different, for better or for worse. But regardless, right, we do have the financial edge over Ajax. The thing is, unfortunately, we're just not run as well. But coming back to why I do believe now that we have a chance, I'm still not going to pin us as favorites, but especially in that first match in the luge, right? Like when we played Arsenal last year, everyone was pumped when the draw came out because we got Arsenal, worst Arsenal start in history, blah, blah, blah. I was worried because I expected them to turn it around. And the thing for me is like this year, I always get skeptical of draws because there's just so much time, right, in between for the round of 16 to the round of 32 or the group stage to the knockouts, right, in both competitions. But last year, we draw to Port, we lose to Braga, we drop a couple other games, we had those ties, right? We lose to Sporting 1-0. We went into like that rough patch at the worst time when we just couldn't get into a rough patch. And then we get knocked out, of multiple competitions. We do poorly. This year, we have the chance. Let's see what happens in the Taça, right? But otherwise, again, I don't want that to be a catalyst for bad things. But if we do win in the Taça and we do beat Porto, or more importantly, we do beat Porto in the Liga or get like a draw at the very least, right, to keep ourselves in it, then you go into the next round, like the Segundo Volta, really, of your games after Pass, easy games. And then a Liga game against Boavista that's easy. And then to build confidence,
Yeah, in the way that you just mentioned it, that lineup into Ajax is Boavista away, then Ajax at home, then we got Vitória Guimarães at home, not away, Portimonense, Vizela, then Ajax away. I don't know if we'll get a Taça Portugal if we advance sprinkled in there, but the thing is, it's not like we got a good possible run. It'd be a nightmare to have Ajax, Porto, Sporting. You know what I mean? Like when you have like right now the stereo. Like if we had this back-to-back Porto match, but also that's why I was so scared of Kiev. You fuck up Kiev and then you fuck up this and then you get to Porto and you screw that up, as the wheels are going to come off.
Well, yeah,
I do think that because of the Ajax draw, because of this win, even if we flounder against Porto, I don't think George is going anywhere. I do think you'll have Ajax, but I think the thing I love the most about the Ajax draw, and it's not to disparage them, it's the fact that they are at the same level of footing as us. We got a little bit more financial clout from a money standpoint, and not being disrespectful for Ajax, but that's the reality of it, right? Just incurred circumstances. We spent more than Ajax. If Ajax spanks us over 2 legs, if they really do spank us, there is no excuse. Oh, we faced City. They have more money. Of course, it is what it is. So the mentality is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Like this would be very, very, very critical. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I look at is like when you look at the Ajax squad. Last time we played Ajax was when they made that miraculous run, right? probably should have gone to the final if it wasn't for that miracle Poch moment with Tottenham, right?
Yeah.
Lucas Moura. But we beat them 1-0. We lost 1-0 rather, and we drew. And then it seems like obviously in the Champions League in general, we've kind of had, so that was our second to last Champions League, right? Then the last Champions League, we get the 2 semifinalists with Lyon and Leipzig, which we probably should have gotten out of that group too. And then now we get stuck with Bayern and Bar. So like we do get decent groups, but it's good in the sense that like that Ajax team, right? They had so much young talent, and you looked at them and you're like, I wish that was us. Now, honestly, I feel more like that with Sporting, where you look at them and it's like, oh, they have an exciting young coach that handles the media well and is like just a good guy, right, all around, not like arrogant or an ass or anything. Then you look at the players that they have. Their core is great, blah, blah, blah. Us actually with the blah, 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 it's sick. That Ajax pump up video from that season. If no one's seen it,
I love it. I still to this day play that track.
Same,
Like
it's so good.
I gotta say, it is from a marketing standpoint. Just I got lots of love for Ajax as a club and as an organization because I view them in the same light. They're a team that because they're not in one of the big quote unquote leagues, they get ignored a lot, and they shouldn't. And you have to go above and beyond when you're not part of the top 3 leagues, top 2 leagues. You know what I mean? You have to kind of do better. Like it's Arsenal, Spurs. Spurs is a trash club, absolute trash club. They have no existing youth system. They can't bring up a youth player to save their life. Their transfer policy is a complete train wreck. But each year they throw over $100 million at in the summer in January, and they keep throwing money, throw money, and they can like limp their way to kind of compete in these tournaments. They're still trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the things, Mario, that I just that I'm kind of thinking about is their roster, right? Because I was just thinking the whole point of me talking about the old Ajax is like this year they don't have a lot of youth per se. I just realized again the reason why I would never put us as favorites against Ajax. Sebastian Haller, like the leading him and Lewandowski, the leading scorers in the Champions League. Him, Lewandowski, Ronaldo, the only people to score in every group stage match, right? So, like, it's scary to see what this guy's doing. Then you have Anthony, right? The Brazilian guy in the wing that's just crazy. Like, at one point, it looked like he was going to be the rising star of the Champions League, only to be overshadowed by a guy that's, like, on his own team. And then you have, like, Tadic, who broke the record for assists in one season with 37. Like, he beat Messi. So, like, these are guys that you look at them now. It's not like you have, like, these young guys who, like, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they'll kind of get stage fright, like a deer in headlights. No, they have guys. Haller, it is his first Champions League, yeah, but he's not, like, on the young side like those other guys. But you look at them, and it's like this team, Tagliafico, they have Daley Blind, so they have the experience in the back. Like, their coach, phenomenal manager that's getting connected with United and all these other teams. It's like it's gonna be a tough match. But I hope I should say that Odie really and Otamendi are able to keep it up because they've been absolutely phenomenal. Both named to the Champions League team in the group stage, right? So best 11 players in the group stage, statistically at least, right? And I hope that they're able to keep up with those guys. But it scares me when I think of having Andre Almeida on the right wing against Anthony or, even Vertonghen against like a Haller chasing him down. I have a lot of faith in Otamendi when he's able to, win those tackles, those one-on-one duels. But when we're chasing someone, we're screwed.
No, you can't do it with pace. So they got to be very, very careful with that. But I think it starts with Porto. I think Porto, we have a mental block. I think with them at times. I do think we're actually the better team on paper. I think right now how we are playing in this moment, and even if you look at some of the times where we've had kerfunkles so far this season, I still think we're better than them. Like I honestly do. I think Porto is in a situation where they feel they're floundering, they're struggling. You see them get their 1-0 win against Braga. It did not look comfortable at all. Braga could have drawn that game. They could have won that game, and Braga's not having a good season. Narrow victory against Rio Ave. They've had like they're not looking very hot. So if there's a time where we could get the double on Porto back-to-back wins, it is an opportunity right now. I just want to quickly one thing they said in the chat which made me laugh, and I just want to reference it. There's a Tom Holland reference that is absolutely, you have to look it up, but there is a post he does make. The guy who plays Spider-Man, he's a Spurs fan. He's a British guy. And and he met Mbappe, and Mbappe said, "Hey, you're Spider-Man." He said, "Oh, you're Mbappe, man," and a nice little moment together. And he's like, "Man,
Yeah.
I'm a Spurs fan. Would you ever come to Spurs?" And Mbappe just laughs, saying, "No chance in hell. Like, that'll never happen." And then they pose for the photo, and it's Mbappe with his massive smile, and Tom Holland looks gutted, like just looks like there's like it's like the guy's like, "Oh my God, you're Spider-Man. I love you." He's like, "Oh, it's awesome. Would you ever come to Spurs?" No,
Yeah.
even though you're Spider-Man, I wouldn't do that. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's
That's how
great.
bad it is.
Yeah, like so just like Boris was mentioning before about Ajax stuff, but you bring up the to kind of switch gears a little bit to Porto,
Yeah.
right? Mario, off the top of your head, which I thought this was the last time, but I had checked earlier today just to remind myself. Do you remember the last time we beat Porto?
I honestly can't. Didn't we get a win last year against them? Or no?
It was they had the red card, and then we ended up just only winning 1-1. That was the goal where like it was right at the beginning. There was that sick picture of like Grimaldo, Nuno Tavares, and Darwin all on the camera because we scored early. But no, that game ended 1-1. We drew both matches 1-1 with them last year.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like why we forget about it, right? But then between the Taça, between the Super Taça, between the league otherwise, like the beginning of the 2020 season or 2019-2020 season, right? We haven't won. The last game we won was when João Felix scored that goal in the Dragão, which I actually was there for. It was my first game in the Dragão. And I just can't believe it's been 6 matches. Yeah, exactly. So like Enclosure says, it was 6 matches. It was that game with Rafa and Felix. But like it's been 6 matches since we beat Porto. That's an embarrassment. Right? Like, they own us right now. We're like Sporting calls us like Papai, right? We call Porto Papai because we can't figure it out. Like they're literally like our parent.
Oh no, we can't. It's been, and I look at it like even if you go back further and you go back to the last 20 years, and the last 20 years, Benfica has had a golden generation. To be honest, when you look at the squads of Cardozo, Di Maria, you look at Aymar, then you kind of have that evolution where you had guys like Enzo Perez, you had not only Feja, but before Feja, Matic, you had Jonas, obviously, but you also had Lima. We have had just an amazing abundance of talent. And yet, sadly, when you go back, not only the last few years, but you go back over the last 20 years, they got our number. That's just the thing that I look at right now on paper, thinking away emotion. If we're 2 independent clubs that don't know each other, I think head-to-head, we should get both wins. We are the better side. And when it's all said and done, I'll be depressed if we lose both games, but I wouldn't also be shocked because they come with a certain mentality. Now, I do think they're the one good advantage in a sense. I do think the young guys like Ramsh. You look at Felix was that guy that helped push us. You got Ramsh off the bench. You got Morata on the bench. So you got some of that Jinga in there that they're going to push. But also you have these other guys like Gilberto, Darwin, and some of this new blood that goes, I don't care about this history. I care about the fact that everyone's loving me. I'm killing it right now, and I'm going to give my 110, and I'm going to make you my puta in a sense, right?
Yeah. So
and I hope that happens, right? I hope that comes. Plus, also with Otamendi, with the him, he fought like a friggin' dog those last season against Porto. So I hope there is this turning tide, and I'm saying the word I hope a lot because that's really all I'm doing.
Yeah, and the thing with me is when I look at just like Port's lineup, one of the things that worries me is obviously if you have to pick one weak spot in general, for Benfica, it's probably the midfield, right? It's just like defensively, it's I don't really like to play with 2. I kind of like 3 in the midfield, especially against the Porto or Sporting, so we're not exposed there and we kind of give up these counterattacks, right? But when it comes to Porto specifically, I think more of defense. Okay, I think of Luis Diaz, I think of Otavio, I think of Taremi. Taremi really hasn't been big this year, but like especially Luis Diaz, right? He plays on the left side. So he's going to be going against Gilbert, who, look, if you're playing twice against Port, Luis Diaz is going to be starting both times on the left side. Gilbert, I mean, he had to come off injured today with like cramps or whatever it was, right? Or he struggled to come off. He had some difficulties there. He's not a guy that can play every single game, every single week. So you're already facing some changes there, right? So he's going to struggle a lot with Luis Diaz on the right side. Plus, on top of that,
the guy have Almeida. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's what scares me is the fact that, typically I would say, I'm not really worried because Pep, as much as, Gilbert will come out with an injury for us because he's, struggling, or Guamadi with
Pep has been, I was in lately in the last few weeks coming off early and he is in pain and
I think he's close to the end to be quite.
I will be shocked if he doesn't finish the season. And I'm not wishing any ill. I just think that's the reality of how he's doing right now. Lazaro's he's kind of like the surprise package that can come out, and he got a little bit of run today, and we've seen him before where sometimes not as appealing, sometimes appealing, but again, I think we are on the losing side of that matchup. Um, but I think on the opposite side, if Darwin and Rafa are making their runs, Pep on his final legs, if Shomaru shows up like he showed up today, and he has the potential to show up at times, it can go either way, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things I do just want to address, like in Closure's comment, right? Luis Diaz, this year he's just a different beast. I'll say Luis Diaz has always been very good. This year he's showing why he's one of the top. He's Port's best player by far, right? Like last year you could have said that about Sergio Oliveira or maybe Otavio or even Marquezine, right? But like he's been by far their best player this year. Arguably, he was my MVP, my pick for MVP at the beginning of the year. Up until really today with Rafa again opening my eyes that hey maybe I was trying to look at more of like a kind of an objective perspective.
Try to take
right?
away the red
Yeah, the red
sunglasses off.
glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even like without the red glasses, I think you have to look at Rafa and be like, holy shit, like this guy's just unreal.
And these are the games that'll. It's to do it. This is where you earn that MVP status.
Yeah, this is where you can't be a guy that
Cemented.
disappears, which is one thing that I'm very excited about. Like Luis Diaz in general, and Closure just real quick to address him. I do think that Luis Diaz could be a problem just because his form has been unreal. He's one of the most informed players in the league. Pot, isn't in form. He's been missing some pretty big chances. So I rather, if it comes down to it one-on-one with one of your center backs and the goalie, I'll take Pot over Luis Diaz. I'll take, a lot of guys over Luis Diaz. Pretty much everyone. Even Rafa, because Rafa, with decisions, either he's on or off. It depends on the day. But, right, one of the things that we need to think about is just like this match with Port, it's the back-to-back that really worries me. It's the fact that like the adjustments, and then they, as far as I'm aware, they're not going to have a Conceição either. He's also serving a suspension for the Tasa game, and then he'll be back for the second leg, him and JJ. If anyone in the chat knows anything different, correct me, but I'm almost positive that's the situation. But I think that we need to just be strong against them. Like Darwin, I love that Darwin is around because with Darwin, you look, he loves the big moments. You saw him against all the big games. He runs around like a little kid that's trying to prove himself, right? Yeah, he always has those moments where we're like, what the hell? But for the most part, he comes up to play. So I think that having a guy like Darwin that isn't going to, at least effort-wise, shy away. Like Rafa scares me, like a piece, because like he could just disappear. If Rafa has in his mind, I'm not going to run at these guys today, then honestly, ja forced. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're done. And Rafa is really like a guy that when he's on his game, it's all offensive. If he is off, he is a dud. Like he's not doing anything. He's not tracking back. But you got some wingers that will track back and help a lot. Rafa doesn't do that. Like if he's off his A game up forward, he doesn't do anything for the back. So
well, now it's been interesting to see too, just like how big of a role he's played because he's not. Obviously, he has a different responsibility defensively now.
Yeah. But
even like today, a game where everything was going well, he was getting like behind the ball, right, to kind of make it more difficult for them to infiltrate. And just Boris, real quick, I 100% co-sign like PZ. I think Rafa, in the sense that he's more important than PZ because I really don't think the team is ever going to run on PZ. PZ will be the guy that puts in the ball that makes the play. He's a playmaker. But Rafa is just like the whole game plan goes around him because he can get yellows for guys. He can just put the other team on their heels and be like, oh, we need to be careful. We can't let Rafa get one-on-one. Like he gets in the other team's head. PZ could be, all alone at the 20-yard box. Pep could be at the midfield line. He'll still track him back. So like just because PZ, they're totally different players. But I do agree that it's scary to think about what happens with Benfica against Port if Rafa doesn't show up. Because Darwin can't do it on his own. He'll try against the big teams. He'll have moments, but I think that's.
I think I see this comment here that the 2017 Pizzi when he was MVP, he was good. The one thing I get one right before we go to Sharice the match, player of the match, all the fun stuff. Darwin, to me today, like complaining about Rafa Sanchez that tracking back. Darwin was doing that. He was tracking back. He picked up a car doing it, but he still was tracking back. He was hustling. He's everywhere. I sometimes struggle looking at our formation because you kind of see it on paper: 3 defensive center backs, the 2 full backs, 2 mids, 1 striker, 2 wingers. But the way Darwin floats up front, It's nice. It's just that puts so much more pressure on Grimaldo to really be on his A game, and that's a guy I know we didn't talk much about today, but because of the way that Darwin's moving all over the pitch and he's getting more and more into levels of confidence, that's good, and you need him to be good like that. But it's also does create a slight gap where if he's doing his part, it's kind of leaving that position open, and Grimaldo's been filling it in, but it's not easy, and you can see he's getting a bit gassed out in 2 back-to-back matches against Porto. Again, this is where I think this fullback situation where if Gilberto has a slight knock and he can power through, but he needs a rest. Almeida doesn't have the legs in him, and also with Grimaldo, Lazaro is going to be like such a player that is either going to make or break us if he comes on as a sub, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of worries me
Scary.
because it's scary because I think it was the Barca match where Barca was kind of letting us attack at the end of the first half, and that's where I think we ended up making the sub at halftime to take him out. But he just kind of he didn't seem like he had any urgency. And I want a guy that's going to be like a Gilbert. That's like Gilbert today. There was one play where the ball kind of came off of a corner, sprints to the sideline to keep it in play, and then boom, plays it right into he was just always thinking okay, let's advance, let's go. Mm-hmm. And you need a guy that's going to do that. And it sucks because you have, Radonjic obviously is still injured, and he's kind of more of a winger, but the wingback role is something he's been tried at, everyone, right? With JJ. Everyone ends up at right back or left back, but he is an option there. And then when you think of just how the team is structured, Almeida obviously is a center back now. He's not your right back, but he can play there. So you almost think okay, well, they consider starting Morat and then bringing on Almeida because he needs to play at some point.
Yeah, and I think they experimented that a little bit today where they throw Almeida on the left.
Yeah. So one of the things that was interesting was they even today with Morat, they wanted to. I was happy because they started with Morat as the left center back, right? Then you had Vertonghen and Otamendi, but then they actually switched it around so Morat was on the right side, which I liked because it kind of tried to me. It seemed like they were trying to say, okay, if Almeida wasn't playing, how would he do? And honestly, Morat today was kind of disappointing to me. There was that one play that he kind of put Otamendi in hot water. I didn't think he was anything special. Again, this isn't saying anything against him in general, because Almeida wasn't any better today. But Almeida, the one thing I will give him the one thing I'll kind of give him against Port is the experience factor. I think experience is a lot of BS a lot of times, but when it comes to Port, a game where you're going to have on the Carthage, on the postcard of the game, he's going to be one of the guys Pizzi in a game against Port. Depending on what the situation is, I don't mind seeing him come on as a sub, right? Because these are guys that Port are going to think of Pizzi and kind of see ghosts in a sense. Same with Andre Almeida because they just know, okay, Benfica, it's these guys. They have this whole reputation, right? For better, for worse. But I think those are guys that you could use in a Clásico.
Yeah.
But it's just sad that that's what it comes to. That you don't have a guy where it's oh, yes, that we can launch. And I'm scared at our outside back position because if you lose Grimaldo, we saw some stuff from Gil Diaz, but I'm just scared.
Yeah. Let's get to the Schlitz match. Play the match. Let's
do it. But also agree.
Go.
No, enclosure agreed. For this comment.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. All right, man. I'll be honest, even though we got 7 goals, a little bit of a challenge in terms of selecting some of them because I do think collectively the team did well. For myself, in looking at the Chorista match, I'm going to start with that challenging moment because I feel like Chuck early on was the guy that was going to get it, but then he really came onto his own so much so in the second half that to me, I got him away from the Chorista kind of category. The other one that I kind of debated about, and it wasn't that he had a bad game, but Otamendi had a couple kerfunkles, because we were dominating this game so well, and sometimes the problem when you're doing so well in a game, you kind of can fall asleep at the wheel as a goalkeeper or a center back. And there was a couple of moments where there's some miscommunication with him and Odie. At one point where Odie, I don't know what the heck Odie was doing. There's one play where we had possession. It came from there, and Odie went to, I don't know if he went to the corner or where he was. The camera was looking at the entire, not just the small box, the big box, and Odie was nowhere to be seen. He had ran to the side of the pitch, and I can't remember if it was Almeida. I think Almeida had the ball, and instead of holding, he decides to pass it to Otamendi, and almost looks like Otamendi's going to let it roll, and he looks back and he see Odie booking it, yelling, "I'm not in net. Get the goddamn ball!" And he got the ball. And there was another point where he had a bad back pass, which was done. So I was kind of leaning towards him, but then the one I'll be honest, I'm going to end off on would be, I don't know, if there's one guy I wouldn't want to see against Porto, I still think I wish Verissimo was healthy, man. Almeida leaves me feeling uneasy, man. Again, when it's all said and done, I think he wasn't too bad of a game today, but.
Yeah, I think, and we can. I actually kind of like this idea. We can go back and forth. My shitties of the match, I'm going to give it to Andre Almeida for a variety of reasons. And I mean, in closure, everyone's talking in the chat. Obviously, we know that he's not what we need at right center back. I think pretty much everyone's in agreement that we should give Moratu a chance. If Moratu, he is a lefty, right? If he doesn't play that well at the right center back position, you have Tomas Arujo from the B team, who has showed that he's a great player. He played in the Covilhã game and the Taça da Liga. He held his own. Looked a little nervous at the very beginning, but like didn't make any mistakes. Played well, more or less. Not as great as Fer, but maybe Fer is a guy that deserves a shot, right? Because we've only seen him in the Taça and last year against Santa Clara when we had the tsunami match. But like that's not enough to really prove anything to the fans, right? Because there's one thing training. I do know that we're not there in training. We don't see what happens. We don't see fitness or anything, but you do just kind of want to see how he reacts in a game situation. And, you give him a couple more games. If he doesn't play well, hey, buddy, thanks for your service. Thanks for coming through the club, and boom, like send him on his way. But you don't want him to be a guy that just kind of lingers around. And yeah, so that's kind of my take on him. But my shitties to the match was definitely Almeida because he just was poor today.
Yeah.
There were some times where he was trying to start stuff from the right wing. He kind of looked like a chicken with his head cut off. He wasn't very composed. His passing is always something that is kind of, befuddles me because he'll have the crosses that go in for goals. He'll like that historic one that everyone always talks about that always shows up on Instagram. Even the ball to Rafa last game over the top, beautiful ball for the goal, right? Against Famalicão, rather. But then for the most part, you'll have passes where it's like, what were you doing? Like you just gave away possession and killed all of our momentum for no reason. And even worse, you did it at a time much like Tarapt, right? Where now we're defensively in a shitty situation. So I'm going to give him my shitties of the match.
Perfect. And then in terms of the player of the match, I really did struggle with this one also because I love the goals that Darwin scored. I love that Darwin's been coming on. He's been killing it. He's just doing so well. But then at the end of the day, for me, it has to be Rafa just because it was just a constant, like beginning to end, good performance by Rafa. The guy had an outstanding thing, but I was kind of leaning towards a little Darwin, but just Rafa inched out more. But good problem to have.
Yeah. I think that for me, my play of the match is probably going to be that fifth goal. So it ends up getting on the Darwin, tracks back again, and he's kind of near the midline, right? Blasts the ball across the pitch. Beautiful touch from Rafa, smart touch, brings out the goalie, and then taps it over to Chuck, who it was a bouncing ball. Chuck could have skied it, especially with his confidence. That wasn't a given goal, even though it should have been. Right, we really would have gotten off on him if he missed it. But I'm happy he put it away, and for me, that was the play of the match.
Play. What would you say, player? Let's say player, and I'll give you my play.
Sorry.
Player.
Yeah, for player, I would go with
probably Rafa, or what do you think? Are you still leaning?
I have to go with Rafa. Darwin got the man of the match officially, but I mean, 1 goal and 4 assists from Rafa, and he was running, he was doing everything right. It's a toss up. But I'm going to go Rafa just because, when's the last time that we've seen someone do that? Never.
Yeah, my play of the match, very tough to pick a play of the match because a lot of amazing plays this match, a lot of amazing goals to pick from and opportunities. I'm just going to give it to Rabish because of the Brusha comment and our kind of witchcraft that we worked in. We willed it into existence, and it's kind of cool to see that happen. And it was just kind of cool to see the guy get a little bit more time and also see him get the goal. The play is relatively simple, but it was Seferovic did a simple thing, which was a simple side pass, which he has screwed up a million times over. and Ramj got that clean hit. It was a very simple play. I think it was better plays than that, but to me, that was a play where because of all the banter back and forth, it got me jumping off the chair. I was like, could I have happened?
Yeah, we were going crazy in the track. I just hit like Mario like 3 times. It's like Mario.
It's happened. It's good. So
Like
that's a play
Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Yeah, exactly. I got really that's a play kind. Sometimes a play to me. It was like I think there's better plays, but that play there got me the most. Like if we talk about the 7-0 a year from now, Joe, it's like that's the one.
Yep,
Rob scored. He scored. We talked about it. Yeah. And it starts. It was quite hilarious. But
one of the things that I do want to just touch on really quickly.
Yep.
Is Enclosure's comment about the B team. First off, real big shout out to the B team. If anyone has Benfica TV, you get the B team games. So definitely I'd check those out in general. If not, I know Fabs was talking about the highlights. It's been really exciting because you do have guys like Pedro Álvaro and Tomás Araújo in the back. You even have Miguel Nobrega, who also, he's one of those guys that came up with Felix, one of his friends. So pretty good center backs. You have the Cruz guys on the outside, Sandro and Felipe, right? Like great outside backs. But then in the midfield, it's been so exciting because a couple of years ago, you had Dantas, then you had Paulo Bernardo. Then on the wings, you have these really exciting players. So Thiago Gouveia, Embalo is one of the other ones to definitely watch out. Luis loves Embalo. And then Ronaldo Camará, who actually set up that beautiful Embalo goal. He has crazy vision, that Camará kid. And that's someone who last season, there were rumors that he wasn't going to re-sign with Benfica, ended up extending his contract. And we're obviously really excited about that. But these are guys like, then you have Henrique Rouge that's at the top, like the striker, right? He scored the most goals, I think, for the B team. I think it's like him and there's some other guys that I can't recall at the moment. But like the B team's really exciting. First place in the Segunda Divisão for a reason. Verissimo was doing really well with them. I never want him to get his hands in the A team. But it is nice to see that the B team's doing well.
Yeah, and it'd be kind of cool. It'd be very cool to kind of see the outcome this season if we keep kind of killing it the way we are killing it on the B team. At the end of the day, it's kind of awkward having this in the second division. None of the big three have ever won. So it'd be kind of cool to see our B team actually win the title.
And one of the things that I think is interesting is when you look at just to address this comment with Fabs, like the probably the biggest, we got this kid from France, shared like Nidior or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Tadibo of whatever. But he's so that's the kid actually that Cesar's talking about. I'm assuming about he's really good and really talented. So we got pretty lucky that we have them. And Port did win the league once, but they obviously can't. They can't. This was a while back.
I didn't see that.
But then they also were about to get relegated last year and had to bring in their A team rejects to keep them up. So they're bums.
The funniest one so far out of all this B team business that cracked me because Guimarães had one. I forget if Guimarães is in third division.
They're in there. Actually, I think they're in like the Liga 3 now, like the third division. They're not in like the Campeonato, but they used to be in the Campeonato.
Yeah, they fell even further. And Braga, same things, but Sporting was the funniest. The year they got relegated was the year they were too prideful to get relegated, so they folded the team instead of getting around, which made me laugh. And I thought Porto was going to do the same thing last year. They were so close.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah.
But for the B team, I mean the B team's great. Exactly like Boris says. One of the things for me, I think that, he's really, in terms of Brazilians, right? We have the young guys, JJ, that is, he's a great coach, but he's just not going to be your future. I think it'd be great if Benfica won both leagues. That'd obviously be great. But Juice Box, I know you're coming late. But again, that's why I said I think that Luis Diaz is the best player in the league, but Rafa's making a case. And it's hard to argue that, I think, in terms of form. I'm talking about form, obviously, performance. Best player in the league, period. I mean, you're probably looking at Paulinho or someone like that, or maybe Luis Diaz.
He's on the main thing. I wasn't sure if he still watched the replay, so I just threw in the thing there.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing that it comes down to with Rafa if he is watching it live. But obviously, he's a great player. He's in great form. But at the end of the season, you don't give out the MVP award to the guy who is the best player. You give it to the guy who was the best player that season, like Coates last season. Is he the best player in the Portuguese league? No, but last season he was the most clutch. Like he was the most valuable. right?
Yeah.
So performances obviously have to match up
That's
there.
exactly. I think that this Porto match will. Again, when you're looking at Diaz being as good as he is, having as good of a season as he has, if Porto get the best of us, it's because the Diaz is involved in that. Then he's got a shoe in. Still lots of games to be played, but he gets a huge leg up. However, if we can get the best of Porto, which I hope we do, and Rafa plays any instrumental part in that, the conversation does shift all of a sudden. Now it's Rafa's MVP to lose in a sense if he's performing at the rate he's doing, right? So right now it's
Yeah.
kind of a critical situation.
Because I think that the thing is, when you look at Sporting, obviously Sporting won last year. It was pretty like Pot played a massive role, but Coates probably played the role just because he got those goals. They kept them undefeated until the 33rd week against us. But when you look at Benfica, it's like it is a team effort more or less. But like there are a lot of games last season too where the defense held their own. But the offense couldn't score. We always used to remember there was that one game where they had like, Benfica zero or hasn't shot since the last or hasn't had a shot on goal in the last 35 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So like one of the things for me is that the offense really seems to be the thing that gives us chances. Like Ajax, right? Having those games where you can beat a team 5-1, even if it's them with Sporting or us with Marítimo, right? Just having the games where you can actually get guys put the ball in the net. That's what helps you win a league. Defense, obviously, they say wins championships. Offense wins games. But, like, as long as we score a couple goals, like if we score 2 goals against Port, I think we win the game. If you tell me right now, without knowing anything else about Port, anything about the game, hey, Benfica scored twice. Okay, we won. That's kind of how I feel. Oh, Benfica scored once. Probably 1-1 draw, maybe a 1-0 win. But I really just worry about our ability to score against Port. But I think that if we can score 2 goals, we should be good.
Yeah, it'll be good. I think I'm excited. We'll see how I feel on Wednesday. I'm going to make sure. I think I have the opportunity. I got to double check, but I think I have the opportunity to be able to watch the match, which would be awesome. Therefore, we can talk about it. I know weekday matches are a bit tough, but because the holiday schedule is a little lighter, and if things are looking a little lighter, I'm just going to find Picasso a little bit earlier because the game is not only on Wednesday, but what time is the game? Let's actually.
You're talking about the Portasa game?
Yeah, I think it's in the later afternoon to 3:00 our time, is it not? If I'm not mistaken, 4:00, 3:00 our time.
It's 3:45.
Perfect. Yeah, I knew it was later on. That's good. I think I should hopefully
the other
game, watch that one. 4 p.m. next Thursday. I think I also got nothing going on, so I'll probably do the same thing.
Yeah, and that's right before Christmas Eve too. So that's the 23rd or the 23rd for this one, right before Christmas Eve, and then right before New Year. So those are kind of like, all right, it's 4 p.m.
Quieter times. So I'm excited at least from an Eastern Standard Time. Not sure what Mel's up to, but depending on the situation, we would do one right after the match is done. See if Luigi works out from a scheduling for him. I don't know. I know he works hospitality, and it's a little tougher this time of year. A lot busier. He if he's listening to this right now, I know he's sleeping right now because he has an early get up, but he loves Christmas.
Yeah, we one of the things that I see guys talking just in the chat, right, about transfer stuff. Real quick, want to touch on this too.
Yeah.
The B team, like if you look at the B team, it's all young kids.
Yeah.
Villar is probably one of the oldest ones, right? So it's not like I do think that the way that kind of the better teams like Port and Benfica are using the U23 league is kind of just like, hey, like your good U19s, they play in that league. Right, so it's always kind of like
the U23 to me. I know it's something that's been around for a little bit. I'm not a big fan of it because to me, it's a good spot to throw the kids that are not good enough. I'm sorry, U23. If you're 22 years of age and you can't make Benfica's bench and you can't make the B team.
So that's what it comes. But then there are guys where it's like it's tough to have that mindset when then you have a coach like for us now. Do you think that Henrique Araujo isn't good enough for a first division team in Portugal? The striker, he is. Yeah. Like all those guys, honestly, a couple ones are up there. Like they have that Felix kid, Nuno Felix, who just started, right? Like he's kind of going to take over for Paulo Bernard because obviously you need people to fill these roles when the other guys get called up to the A team. So part of it is just the fact that the coaches won't play him. But I do agree that all right, you had the guy today that had played Diego Carlos. I forget what his name is. But he played today for Marítimo. Diogo Mendes had played for the B team for a couple of years, actually. I can't believe I forgot his name. But he played for the B team, but he's also like, all right, buddy, you're 23. You haven't broken an A team, not even to get loaned out, right? Like, thanks for your service, but it's time for you to go. But real quick, for the transfer stuff, right? Rafa, actually, I've been kind of thinking about, what we should do with Rafa. Like I said before, I think this is a time where, unfortunately, I think the club's gonna sell him, and I'm not really sure how to feel about it.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't. The only sad thing I'm gonna see this January window from a sell
Oh no, not
standpoint is
January.
Jets.
I'm saying summer.
Yeah,
Summer.
summer, yeah. So I think, but for January, real quickly, I don't think we're going to sell anyone outside of Jetson, which I think just the club has made a mistake with Jetson. Personally, we could have played him in the TAS Ligas. We could have done something with him. There is a reason why these Turkish clubs are screaming for him. They have seen him. We have seen him. I don't know if the guy's good enough for Benfica or not, but I don't think he's gotten as fair of a shake as he should have got.
I'm worried about actually. I'm kind of worried about Everton now too. I don't think we lose him, but that's one where I don't think it'll happen. If I had to put money on it, I'd say no. But I do think we're going to hear a lot of rumors. And rumors, I mean, obviously we're going to hear the ones about Darwin. We're going to hear some probably about Rafa, just assumptions. But I think we're going to hear a lot about Everton because now his agent is starting to be a little picking our sides.
They're doing the window shopping things. So I really think they'll come into the summer, though, to what you're saying. If Rafa, I almost kind of, if he kills it for Benfica, has an MVP season, and someone comes with a good offer, take it. Just take it. These watch-alongs have been.
Babs, you're 100% right. If you want to ask why I'm too scared for a watch-along, go watch the Serbia-Portugal Seleção game. Because my emotions during these games swing way too much. I know
my liver in that game was a bit hurt too much, but hey.
Yeah, I won't be able to keep for the Seleção. Obviously, I love the Seleção and everything, but my emotions during Benfica, I just want to have a job one day, so don't want any incriminating stuff on the internet.
Yeah, I know. I got to get rid of that video. But again, I think if Raf has a killer season, sell him. I'm scared Darwin's going to go. I think with Darwin though, I don't know what his agent's like. I don't know what his head's like, but at the same time, we paid good money for him. If he
24.
if he does well and he's doing well, the kid has a big buyout also. He has a huge buyout. But the buyout's 100 million, isn't it? So we could get. I'm not saying we don't sell him.
I think
we can hold on to him, right?
I want to say it's honestly more because I remember back when Ruben Dias and those guys had re-signed, it was like Ruben Dias and Fer were like 88 release clauses, like 88 mil, and then other guys were like someone else got 120 after João Felix too. So like he's either like 100 or 120 or maybe even 150, like something ridiculous, right? That no one could trigger, basically forcing a club to kind of negotiate. But I think what we've seen from him kind of in the last couple games. Again, this is a guy in good form. People in good form are always, they're going to make you dream, especially when they're young. But I think he's such a raw talent in the sense that, like, his footwork isn't there, right? Like, he's not like a Benzema that's going to be just pure class. But his effort is there. He's strong. Like, he has the, the physicality to be successful in any league. So I think that, for me, honestly, he's a guy that I do want to see stick around for another year. There are some people saying, no, the second we get 50 for him, sell him. For me, honestly, I want to see him stick around for this and through this season, through next season, and then see what happens after that, right? Because you need to sell guys eventually. But yeah, I mean, I think Seth needs to be gone at the end of this year. Even in January, if someone wanted Seth, I doubt they do. But you got to think about it because, man, we have so many strikers. You have 5 strikers, Mario. Because you have obviously you have Seth, right? You have Darwin, you have Chuck, you have Gonçalo. You have Rodrigo Pinho. That's 5 right there, right? First team strikers that you have. The Pinho's obviously hurt. Then you have the guys on the B team that are starting to show up. Like, like you don't want to lose these talents at the same time if you can get some money for a Seth, who we know, unfortunately, in the big moments in the Liga, he shows up, but then against, in Europe, he doesn't.
What his age, Seth's age is inconsistency and everything else that's come with him. I'd get rid of him in a heartbeat. I just think Darwin is someone that, because of where he came from the 2nd division, he's got this opportunity, he's playing with a certain level of passion, he's wanted to prove himself. Unless someone's willing to pay big for him, I say even though we already got a big buyout, so we don't need to do it, just pay the man a bit more salary. If the guy's showing up, make him we got we're at a stage where we don't need to sell, especially when we're in knockouts of Champions League. We really don't. We only need to sell because they already kind of came out with the information saying that because we're in the Champions League, there's no real need to sell. It kind of covers that gap. So therefore, if the offer is big enough, take it. If someone comes up with 80 million for Darwin, fuck it. 80 million is 80 million.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, yeah, like there are obviously those offers where if someone says, "Hey," even I'd probably say with Darwin, like 70, you have to think because 70 is a lot of money. That's more than Bruno went, right?
Oh, yeah.
And like that's a lot of money. Like, yeah, we see guys that end up being flops, like for 118 million, like a Grealish or Sancho, even or flops, obviously, just not worth it right away, right?
Yeah.
Some guys that to me, just the market's kind of inflated, all this stuff, right? But there are offers where you have to say, okay, if someone's offering 65. Do we think Darwin's going to be worth it later, like more?
I
Probably,
think,
but maybe that's like that kind of the doubtful line.
But I think we can't underestimate the inflation factor. And there's always inflation in player wages and salaries and the transfer fees and each. Like if we look at how much like the Di Marias went for back in the day versus today, people go, "Oh my god, you sold them that cheap." But back then, it was actually decent prices we were selling players for. The idea of getting $50 million for a player was like insane. Now it's like 50, that's nothing, right?
Yeah. And so it comes down, but then you look at it like, okay, Nuno Mendes just got sold for 45. Plus, like they got Sarabia, so I guess that adds like another 5.
I think the Sporting situation is a little bit different. Where Sporting
they need the money more than us.
They're borderline insolvent. They sold Bruno Fernandes because they're insolvent. They needed that money to bridge them over to survive. And Nuno Mendes was something else they could sell.
But now they're going to be fine because, I mean, when you look at the guys, they sold Nuno Mendes, obviously.
Okay.
Right? They need to sell that. But now they have a pot that's going to go for a lot of money. Palinga's going to go to the Prem for a lot of money. They have Mateus Nunes who wait on it. He'll go for money. Pedro Porro, if they want, like any year, is going to go for a lot of money. So they have guys right now that can. But for us, the way I look at it is we don't need to sell Mario. It's not so much a selling thing; it's cleaning house, right?
Yes,
so
and I agree. Get rid of the Cephs, get rid of the Almeidas of the world.
Taarabt, unfortunately, get rid of Almeida. Honestly, he's a guy that just needs to understand his role. Like, listen, stay in the locker room. I don't know when his contract goes up. He shouldn't get extended, but I don't know when his contract's up.
I just personally, and I'm being an ass. I don't like the fact that I don't like that he's our captain. Even like I just feel like he's not. He's quiet as a mouse. He doesn't have like Luizão had a voice. Otamendi, give it to Otamendi.
Otamendi has a voice. You see him with the ref today. The second that the ref gave Darwin the yellow, he's like, "What do you mean?" He goes to him right away.
And where's Almeida? It's the captain that's supposed to run to the ref and fight on behalf of the players, and he doesn't. Right. So that's kind of partly. And if we get a decent offer for Rafa, I will take it. Darwin's
50 for Rafa. I'd take 30 just because I think he's old. I think he's worth like.
I just think where the transfer market is at. I'll take 30. I'd be happier with 50, but of course it's because
obviously numbers, but I think you're 25 to 30 with Rafa. You have to think about it because really right now he's the player. He's the only player that can break up a game and like win you with the game. Per se, Darwin has shown that he can do it kind of too, but like Rafa, it's like, all right, if Rafa's on, we have a chance to win this game guaranteed. But yeah, I don't know. In terms of Fabs, you're talking about Porro, Pedro Porro. Pot was a Sporting player, so he was Famalicão or Wolves and Famalicão, and then ended up at Sporting. But Pedro Porro was the guy that they got on loan, but he just signed a contract with Sporting. So he's no longer a Porto player. I don't know what the fee was or anything there, but everyone's been talking about how he extended to like 2025 or whatever it is, 2026. But yeah.
Can I say one more thing in terms of the draws? I know we touched on Benfica. I will say this much because Sporting did get City and we kind of had a bit of a laugh.
Oh, they're screwed. They're going to get killed. They're going to get killed. Like 7-1 is probably my prediction for the City Sporting match. If it's first leg is in Lisbon, which does help them. Sporting having the home match, but man, that's tough. I do kind of feel bad, but it'll be funny seeing like all the old Benfica guys beat them.
Now, the one thing I'm going to say, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, I do think the old Benfica guys, the Shashala guys, Gonçalo Diaz is the Ruben, Bernardo, things of the sort. I think Sporting is going to get slaughtered. However, and this is the big however, and I'm not sitting here to defend Sporting. They faced once before. And it was just a few years
Mario. They had Nigel de Jong on the team. I know. You cannot say however.
You can't compare.
It was in the Europa League. This City will never be in the Europa League. This is the tight, like the.
This is different.
The title is theirs to lose, right?
I do find sometimes sometimes, and I'm just gonna throw this out there into the universe, is a certain level of arrogance hits that they think this is a cakewalk. I guess City could care less who they face. If they do
Well,
not go with a killer instinct, I think Sporting could put a little bit of a surprise for one of the matches, but I still think overall
but
they're
do you
gonna
know,
get slaughtered
Mario, you have to think seriously. Like normally, you might be able to say that, but the way I look at it,
because they got
like
so many
think
Vikishas
about,
on
well, think
there.
about, well, think about like the guys that are definitely going to show up to this game, right? Cancelo, Bernard Silva, Ruben Dias. Probably not Ederson as much, but like obviously Ederson loves Benfica, but he's probably not watching the games like those other guys. They're pissed.
Actually,
They're pissed
Ederson
right now.
has.
Bernard Silva is pissed that
Yeah.
Sporting beat us. Bernard
Yeah.
Silva's going to show up to that game. Cancelo's going to show up to that game. If you have those two guys show up to the game, forget the rest of the team. That's it. You won.
Yeah.
So
and I can see like enclosure said 10-0. I can see it. I can honestly see it.
yeah,
I just sometimes have this thing of the gap of the money side, which is out of our control, obviously. But it then follows through with some of the commentary. Because if it was us against City, if you'd saying the same kind of comments as them saying we're going to smash 10-0, and they can, I just sometimes think that I not cheer for Sporting. I want to see the Benfica shatter them completely. But there is a part of me that kind of sits there and kind of goes, man, sometimes the attitude pisses me off, man. It's more because it's kind of one of these things where it's like we could shit on Sporting and talk shit about them, but then sometimes it's like you almost kind of look at it kind of like if they completely demolish Sporting, how bad does it look overall for the league? But
well, that's the thing. You don't want us to be like the Farmers League stuff that they always say. But like France has one team left, and it's PSG, which I don't even consider them French, right? They're Saudi. So yeah, they in France, like I have a couple obviously French friends, like a lot of Portuguese people, they call them Paris Saint Qatar, PSQ. So just because it's a joke, and honestly, PSG, I've said this before the groups came out, not even the round of 16, but like for the group stage, I said that if City and PSG don't make it to the final, the only teams they should be losing to are each other. Now that they're in the same group, right? Like if it's not a PSG City final, whatever team loses, they're frauds.
Right? I think Real Madrid. It's funny.
Because the money, not just because the money. In terms of on paper, right? You have a Bayern and a Liverpool, but like money wise, you're telling me you're going to spend that much money and still not win? Like, come on.
Oh no, I think especially on PSG's side, I think that they feel themselves with prima donnas. That's why Mbappe wants out. Part of me, like I'm not a fan of Real, especially after the stunt they pulled this last year. But I think Real, the way that they are on form, I would love to see Real beat PSG. I think Inter will give Liverpool a good fight. Liverpool should easily go through it. Salzburg, well, hopefully you had a good run, but Bayern Munich is going to destroy it. To me, Bayern Munich are the favorites to win this entire tournament. They're the ones that if Bayern Munich screws up somehow, magically, some long away this tournament, maybe they won't win it. But this City versus Bayern Munich, I'd still put bet on Bayern Munich. I would rank City second as a team potentially to do it, but I do think there is a little bit of a bugaboo, even though they got such a talented team with Pep and everything of sort running them. I think there's a mental block on Europe, especially with Pep, because Pep only did it with Barca. He has struggled his entire career since Barca, in my opinion, in Europe. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be fun. I think the Villarreal Juventus match. I think Juventus isn't doing that hot, so I think Villarreal against Juventus is gonna be fun.
Yeah, those are some matchups because like obviously you can't help but think about okay, if we advance, who would you want? And so you started looking at some of those other matchups like, oh, does Atleti get by United? Does Juve pull it off against Villarreal? Does somehow Chelsea lose to Lille, right? Who's obviously the weakest first place team? And you start thinking like, maybe we could sneak our way to a semifinal. But then obviously, but then I always try to bring myself back to earth and just say like, hey man, Ajax has
game by game.
Haller is like he's the darling of the dance right now, right? Like everyone wants him. And just like Anthony, like you look at the whole team, the Ajax team is good, man, and they're well coached, which more than anything really worries me. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it's exciting. I found this draw turned out from a neutral standpoint. Like I think with Chelsea's form dipping, and I think Lille has so much potential. That match can be fun. Atletico versus United, more like Atletico versus Ronaldo. See if Ronaldo can put United on the back and do what he does against Atletico all the time. Will be fascinating to watch that. PSG Real, the story behind that. Like there's just a lot of fun games. Like Villarreal, Juventus go either way. Us against Ajax go either way. Literally outside of Bayern versus Salzburg, and partly I'd argue, semi-argue with Inter and Liverpool. I'd say obviously it's tilted towards Liverpool and then City and Sporting. Those are three matches, but we've had a lot of Champions Leagues where you kind of see the matchups and you almost feel like you know what the next round's going to be. I think there could be a lot of surprises in the next round, which gets me excited. Don't look past Ajax, but as a team, I'll say this much: I respect Ajax, so you're gonna get in the quarterfinals either Benfica or Ajax. I love that.
Yeah,
And you're
like, the
gonna
thing is-
maybe you could get maybe Benfica or Ajax versus the winner of Villarreal versus Juventus.
that would be. See, I
You know what I
like
mean?
that when you have. I kind of like because obviously to be successful in European football now, money does play a huge role.
Yeah,
We've seen that it's possible without money, like Ajax, right?
yeah,
And so it does like make you. It kind of makes you dream, like, okay, like what happens, but I do prefer that it's like, okay, you get some of the smaller clubs and you end up with like, well, not really smaller, but like less favorites, right? The underdogs, like Lyon and Leipzig. Leipzig, obviously, the Red Bull money and everything. Lyon probably have a ton of money too. But like those aren't the teams you were expecting to be in the semifinals in 2020. And then it comes down to just being like, okay, like when you look at the semifinals this year, yeah, it'd be fun to have Villarreal and Benfica or Ajax in the semis or one of those teams, right? And then you have three massive teams and they're the underdogs. But I do think that I mentioned, I just added here like the Twitter polls, like Instagram polls. All the fans are saying it's going to be Ajax 100%. We can't forget this is an Ajax team that did smash Sporting. They were in good form at the time, but we can't deny that they have the leading scorer in the Champions League.
yeah.
Someone that has set a record that, before Ronaldo did it was something that had never happened, right? Scoring in all of the Champions League group stage matches. They won all their matches with relative ease, too, might I add. The Besiktas game was kind of a little iffy, but I think that it's a game that, listen, on our best day is winnable, but there's no doubt that they are the favorites. I
think they're the favorites. I think.
I mean, betting wise too, they are like guaranteed. Like,
you see public opinion, they're the favorites. But I would put to the they get smashed by PSV and we got the best PSV, and again that's why I kind of
because they only lost to PSV. I don't think
because they also or something like that.
But they also smashed PSV in the league 5-0.
Yeah.
So that's the one caveat is like the last time they played, they beat them, but they did beat them in the in like their Community Shield.
Whatever it was
4-0. So they got smacked and then smacked them.
Yeah. But I would agree with you, man. I think Ajax are the favorites, but I think on our day we should be able to get them, and it'll be a very fun match. I really love how this draw turned out. I think it's very fun. I think it's going to be
it's fun,
very entertaining, and that's it. Like I go into it with because you have this European dream, and this is the silliness of it all because I'm one of these idiots that maybe this is the year, reality. I know the reality of financials, but to me, you face Ajax, you have a good match. One of these two teams will be in the quarterfinals. That is 5 games from being a Champions League champion. 5 games. You get like a decent enough draw in the quarterfinals that gets you to the semis, like we've seen with Ajax. We were talking about Leipzig and that happens. You got 3 matches. 3 fluky matches and you're there and you won. Like it doesn't matter. It's the fact that dream exists, and that dream needs to exist to help energize the fan base, energize future transfers to the club. I think it's nice to have, man. And so I hope we get to enjoy it. I hope we get to have fun, and it'll be good, man.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the best part is that hopefully everyone stays healthy. We already lost Verissimo. That obviously hurts because defense is something that we're kind of thinking about. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is we did go head-to-head with Bayern for 70 minutes. I know it's a 90-minute game, but again, the dream lives on, right?
Exactly.
And that's what it comes down to is the fact that we're here in this conversation. We're able to talk with our friends about our club, the club that we love, not just talk about other clubs. That's what I really love about Benfica qualifying is like that. It's an embarrassment to have a club that Mario, you literally wear the club on your sleeve.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, we all do. I do metaphorically, right? Everyone knows if Portugal is doing poorly, or Ronaldo is doing poorly, or Benfica is doing poorly, I'm going to get hit with all the porrada because my friends know I'm loud and proud about all those things. So when things don't go well, it hurts, just as much. And last year, the Champions League loses a lot of its luster when you're not in it. Right, it's like not as shiny.
I lose all interest in it. I'll watch it on and off, but I get so aggravated that I can't. It's
sad, yeah. So just being in the conversation again is nice. And I say this because if we got Real Madrid, I wouldn't be as optimistic, right?
Yeah.
So,
It
and
gives
this,
you the
yeah, this is
excitement. It
a
really
fun
does give
match
you the
too, like
excitement.
Cesar said, because
So yeah, man. Outside of that, man,
yeah. Next
I have a
match,
quick- next match will come on. Because it's Christmas, man. I think I'm gonna do Festivus to close out each match. Is that okay?
yeah, for sure. Festivus, for anyone who doesn't know, check out the Seinfeld episode, but it's actually the day of the fourth match for the Tasa. So we're going to be airing out our grievances if we hop on a show
Yeah.
that day.
So I'll play the clip. It's a clip from last year, which I absolutely loved, and it still holds up today because it's freaking hilarious because of how it all worked out. You guys have a great evening. Kaiga Bifika. We'll talk soon.
Peace.
Let's begin. Oh. Dr. Van Nostrand.
Huh? Oh, that's right.
Welcome, newcomers. The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it. You, Kroger, my son tells me your company stinks.
Oh, God.
Quiet, you'll get yours in a minute. Kruger, you couldn't smooth a silk sheet if you had a hot date with a babe. I lost my train of thought.